The coffee splashed across the marble floor, dark liquid seeping into the pristine white grout as the man's voice rose above the cafe's ambient chatter. "I said move it, lady. That's my seat." Standing frozen between the angry businessman and the startled woman was Travis Carter, exhausted single father of two, who had exactly 17 minutes to finish his coffee before his shift started. He never intended to be a hero that Wednesday morning, but sometimes life's greatest turning points arrive when we least expect them. Travis's weathered hands gripped his cup tighter as he watched the scene unfold. The woman, petite with unassuming clothes and no makeup, had been quietly working on her laptop when the businessman decided her table by the window was his preferred spot. Something in Travis snapped. Perhaps it was the memory of his late wife who'd taught him to stand up for others, or maybe it was simply that he'd witnessed too many bullies go unchallenged in his 42 years. "Excuse me," Travis said, stepping forward, his voice steadier than he felt. "The lady was here first. There are plenty of other tables available." The businessman turned, his expensive suit a stark contrast to Travis's faded work uniform. "Mind your own business, buddy. This isn't your concern." Travis hadn't been in a confrontation since high school, but with his 10-year-old daughter Abigail's words echoing in his mind, "Dad, you always say we should help people who need it," he stood his ground. "Actually, it is my concern when someone's being disrespectful in a public place. The lady was here first, and she has every right to stay where she is." The cafe had gone quiet, the baristas frozen behind the counter, other patrons watching with that peculiar mix of discomfort and fascination that public confrontations tend to inspire. The businessman's face reddened, but something in Travis's calm determination made him reconsider. With a dismissive wave and muttered curse, he grabbed his briefcase and stalked to another table. Travis turned to the woman, who was looking up at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I am now," she said with a smile that transformed her face. "Thank you." Most people would have looked away. Most people haven't had to teach their kids to stand up to playground bullies, Travis replied with a self-deprecating shrug. "I'm Travis, by the way." "Olivia," she said, extending her hand. "Would you like to join me? As a thank you for the rescue." Travis checked his watch, 15 minutes until his shift. "I'd like that, but I've got to be quick. I start work soon." As he settled into the chair across from her, Travis had no idea that this simple act of decency would completely transform his life and the lives of his children. He couldn't have known that Olivia Reed wasn't just any woman working on her laptop in a coffee shop. She was the reclusive founder of Reed Tech Innovations, a woman whose net worth exceeded $11 billion, and who had spent the past year disguising herself to experience normal life after a decade of isolation in the upper echelons of wealth and power. All Travis knew was that she had kind eyes that reminded him of his late wife Rebecca, and for the first time in the 3 years since Rebecca's death, he felt a flicker of something he'd thought was gone forever. Their 15-minute conversation flowed with surprising ease. Travis mentioned his 2 children, Abigail, 10, and Joshua, 7, and his job as a maintenance supervisor at the local hospital. He didn't mention their struggles, the mounting medical bills from Rebecca's cancer treatments that insurance hadn't covered, the second job he worked on weekends, or how he lay awake at night wondering if he was doing enough as both mother and father to 2 grieving children. Olivia listened with genuine interest, asking questions about his kids and work. When Travis reluctantly stood to leave, she thanked him again. "It was nothing," he said. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," she replied with certainty. "They wouldn't have. Trust me, I know." Travis hurried to work, the encounter already fading as he focused on the day ahead. He had no expectation of seeing Olivia again, and certainly no inkling that she had already set her considerable resources to work learning everything about Travis Carter and his family. 3 days later, Travis was called into his supervisor's office. His heart sank. Budget cuts had been rumored for weeks, and as one of the newer supervisors, his position was vulnerable. Instead, he was informed that an anonymous donor had established a scholarship fund for hospital employees' children, and somehow both Abigail and Joshua had been selected as the first recipients. Full college tuition, guaranteed. "This has to be a mistake," Travis said, staring at the paperwork. "Things like this don't just happen." "No mistake," his supervisor assured him. The donor was very specific. "Your kids are covered, Travis. All the way through college." That night, as his children slept, Travis sat at his kitchen table surrounded by the scholarship documents, trying to make sense of this miracle. A knock at his door startled him. It was nearly 10 p.m., and visitors were rare at the modest apartment he downsized to after Rebecca's death. When he opened the door, Olivia stood there, dressed more elegantly than at the coffee shop but with the same warm smile. "I hope you don't mind the intrusion," she said. "May I come in?" Confused but curious, Travis invited her inside. His apartment, though clean, showed the signs of a single parent's life: children's artwork taped to the refrigerator, a basket of unfolded laundry on the couch, textbooks and permission slips scattered on the counter. "I see you received the scholarship information," Olivia said, nodding toward the papers on the table. Travis's confusion turned to understanding. "That was you? But why? You don't even know us." Olivia sat at the kitchen table, her composure momentarily faltering. "Because what you did at the coffee shop, standing up for a stranger when it would have been easier to look away, that kind of decency is rare, Travis. Rarer than you might think." "I don't understand," Travis said, joining her at the table. "It was such a small thing." "Let me explain," Olivia said, and for the next hour, she told him her story. How she'd built ReadTech from nothing, revolutionizing data security and becoming one of the wealthiest women in America. How success had isolated her, surrounded her with people who wanted something from her. How she'd begun her normal life experiment a year ago, disguising herself and observing how people behaved when they didn't know her worth. "In that year, you're the first person who stood up for me without knowing who I was or what I could do for them," she concluded. "Do you know how valuable that is to someone in my position?" Travis sat in stunned silence, trying to reconcile the unassuming woman from the coffee shop with the powerful billionaire sitting at his worn kitchen table. "The scholarships are just the beginning," Olivia continued. "I'd like to help you, Travis. Not because I feel sorry for you, but because I believe in investing in good people. People like you raise children who make the world better." Travis's pride warred with his practical nature. The scholarships were one thing, his children's futures secured was a gift he couldn't refuse. But personal charity was different. "I appreciate the offer," he said carefully, "but we're managing. I don't need." "Everyone needs something," Olivia interrupted gently. "Even me. Right now, what I need is to use my resources for something meaningful. To connect with people who see me, not my bank account." Their conversation lasted until midnight, and by its end, they'd reached a compromise. Olivia would create a position at her company's charitable foundation, a real job with responsibilities that matched Travis's skills, not a handout. The salary would be enough that he could quit his weekend job and spend more time with his children. In return, Travis would help Olivia establish a mentorship program for underprivileged youth, something he dreamed of but never had the resources to pursue. As Olivia prepared to leave, she paused at the door. "There's one more thing, Travis. I'd like to meet your children someday." Not as a billionaire, just as your friend Olivia. Would that be okay? The vulnerability in her question touched something in Travis. They'd like that. Especially Abigail, she's always collecting strays and lost souls. She's got her mother's heart that way. Olivia's smile held a hint of sadness. Sometimes the wealthiest people are the most lost. Your daughter sounds wise beyond her years. The following weeks brought changes to the Carter family's life, subtle at first, then more profound. Travis started his new position, discovering he had a talent for nonprofit work that he'd never known. The mentorship program took shape, with Travis's practical experience balancing Olivia's ambitious vision. Olivia became a regular visitor, first as Travis's colleague, then as a friend to the family. She taught Abigail coding on weekends and helped Joshua build elaborate Lego structures that took over the living room. She never arrived with expensive gifts or mentioned her wealth, though Travis suspected his perceptive daughter had figured out there was more to Ms. Olivia than met the eye. 3 months after their coffee shop encounter, Travis and Olivia were working late at his apartment after the children had gone to bed. The mentorship program was launching the following week, and they were finalizing details. "You've changed my life," Travis said suddenly, looking up from his laptop. "I want you to know that." Olivia set down her tablet. "You changed mine first. That day in the coffee shop. I just told some jerk to back off. You've given my kids a future, given me purpose again. It's not the same. Isn't it?" Olivia asked. "Before I met you, I had billions of dollars but felt worthless as a person. I was surrounded by people but completely alone. Money can solve a lot of problems, Travis, but it can't make people see you, really see you." The silence between them held something new, something neither had acknowledged. "I see you," Travis said quietly. "Not the billionaire, not the philanthropist. Just Olivia." "And I see you," she replied. "Not the charity case or the project. Just Travis." Their first kiss happened naturally, without planning or pretense. When they separated, both were smiling with a mixture of surprise and recognition, as though they'd found something they hadn't realized they were searching for. "What happens now?" Travis asked. "Your world and mine are so different." "Maybe," Olivia said, taking his hand, "we build a new one together." Their relationship developed slowly, mindful of the children's feelings and the complexities of their different backgrounds. Olivia learned about budgeting grocery money and school lunch preparation. Travis learned about corporate boardrooms and the burden of wealth. They argued, compromised, and grew together. 6 months later, when Olivia finally took Travis and the children to see her actual home, a sprawling estate with gardens and a private lake, Abigail looked around with wide eyes before declaring, "It's pretty, but it feels lonely." Olivia knelt to the child's level. "It was lonely, before I met you and your dad and brother. That's why I spent so much time at your apartment." "Our apartment is small," Joshua observed with a child's blunt honesty. "But it's full of love," Olivia replied. "That makes it bigger on the inside." On the 1-year anniversary of their coffee shop meeting, Travis and Olivia returned to the same cafe. The same table by the window was available, as Olivia had arranged with the owner weeks in advance. "I have something to ask you," Travis said, reaching for her hand across the table. "So do I," Olivia replied with an uncharacteristic nervousness. Travis laughed. "Ladies first." Olivia took a deep breath. "The foundation is expanding. We're opening branches in 20 cities across the country. I'd like you to oversee the expansion." Travis blinked in surprise. "That's a huge responsibility." "You've earned it." The mentorship program has already changed hundreds of lives. This isn't about us being together, Travis. You've proven yourself. Pride and gratitude roared in Travis's expression. I'll do it on one condition. Name it. Travis reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. That you'll marry me. Not because you're a billionaire or I'm your charity project, but because somewhere between that first coffee and today, I fell completely in love with you. Tears filled Olivia's eyes as she opened the box to reveal a simple but elegant ring, beautiful but not extravagant, exactly like their relationship. How did you afford this? She whispered. I saved, Travis said simply. Some things are worth saving for. Olivia slipped the ring onto her finger. Yes, she said. To the job and to marrying you. Especially to marrying you. Their wedding 6 months later was intimate, just family and close friends. Abigail served as flower girl and maid of honor, while Joshua proudly carried the rings. The ceremony took place in the garden of Olivia's estate, which no longer felt lonely but had become a gathering place for the mentorship program's events and family weekends. As they exchanged vows, Travis thought about the strange path that had led him here, how grief had given way to new love, how a simple act of standing up for someone had changed everything. Olivia, radiant in a dress that cost less than her usual business suits, at her insistence, thought about how her search for authenticity had given her the family she'd secretly always wanted. Their story spread, first locally, then nationally. A billionaire and a maintenance worker finding love across social divides captured the public's imagination. They declined reality TV offers and magazine exclusives, but did agree to fund a documentary about their mentorship program, which expanded to 50 cities within 2 years. 5 years after that fateful coffee shop encounter, Travis and Olivia sat on the porch of their home, a compromise between his modest apartment and her mansion. Abigail, now 15 and already talking about studying nonprofit management in college, was helping Joshua with his science project in the yard. Their 2-year-old daughter Sophie toddled between them, a perfect blend of her parents. Do you ever regret it? Travis asked, watching Olivia's face in the golden afternoon light. Giving up your privacy, sharing your wealth, dealing with my ordinary problems? Olivia leaned her head against his shoulder. Do you regret standing up for a stranger in a coffee shop and having your life turned upside down? Not for a second, Travis said, kissing the top of her head. That's your answer then, Olivia replied. Some people spend their whole lives accumulating wealth but never find what really matters. I was headed that way until you showed me another path. As the sun set over their yard, casting long shadows across the grass where their children played, Travis and Olivia held hands in comfortable silence. Their story, of courage, chance, and choosing to see the person behind the circumstances, had become more than just their own. It had inspired their foundation's work, touched countless lives through their mentorship programs, and reminded a cynical world that sometimes, just sometimes, doing the right thing can change everything. And it all began with a spilled coffee and a single dad who decided to speak up. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Remember that the smallest acts of kindness can create ripples that change lives forever. Sometimes the most extraordinary love stories begin with the most ordinary courage.